We all think we know the royal family. They're so familiar. We know where they live and what they do. They're unique, they're exclusive. Or are they? For centuries, our royals have been spawning illegitimate children right, left and centre.
Oh, they could still be living.
I'm about to take a fascinating journey. My goal? To find and surprise complete strangers with news of their hidden royal ancestry.
Well, you better come in.
I'll be dispatching genealogists far and wide and revealing the sex lives of our raunchiest monarchs.
But it's huge.
A 6,000-mile hunt for an alternative royal family. Yeah. I'm going in search of the lost royals.
In the past, I have stood here and reported on a whole string of royal scandals, and believe me, quite a few of them have involved sex. Now, I shouldn't be surprised by that, because over the past 1,000 years since William the Conqueror beat Harold at Hastings, the royals have excelled in the bedroom stakes.
The result has been the birth of hundreds of illegitimate children whose descendants are today scattered around the world.
So just how big is this family, really? And how special? Where are all these people with royal DNA who don't even know it?
With some expert assistance, I'm going to try to track down just a few of the many lost royals who are surely out there.
You must be talking in terms of tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands.
We're going to travel far and wide. And at the end of each journey, I'll be surprising the unsuspecting descendants of kings of England with their incredible family trees.
All the way back there.
From Henry I.
Who knows, we might even be coming down your street. First port of call on my search is the Society of Genealogists. I'm going to challenge two of the top genealogists in the country. Anthony Adolph and Stephen Thomas. Lots of us have built a family tree back a couple of hundred years, but to trace a line forward from nearly 1,000 years ago is going to need some specialist detective skills.
So what we're after, and my challenge to you, is can we track down some of the descendants of royal bastards dating, well, right back to medieval times?
Really? The illegitimate offspring of the royals?
But we know they exist, we know they existed, and we know that there are other families that trace down.
Well, I just think it would be so exciting for me to go up to, I don't know, someone's front door in the north of the country or wherever, or maybe even abroad, and just say, hello, did you know? I mean, I can't wait to see their faces.
Very satisfying.
Well, we'll have to see what we can do.
To see an alternative royal family up on the balcony.
OK.
To get them going, I've put together some dossiers of illegitimate royals, all born in the Middle Ages. There's plenty of work ahead for Anthony and Stephen. Meanwhile, I'm going to do some investigating of my own. Peter Beauclerc-Dewar and Roger Powell have spent years studying the illegitimate history of our royal family.
It's Sarah Ferguson. I think she's on the other page, actually.
So perhaps they can give me a few useful pointers.
Is there any clue in surnames as to whether you might have royal bastard blood?
Oh, yes, certainly. With the name Fitz, for instance, that's a very good clue. If it's followed by names such as Fitzcharles, Fitzjames or Fitzroy, there's a very good chance that you're descended from bastard royal blood.
So, kings in the 17th century would often create names for their illegitimate children and add the prefix Fitz, meaning son of, to the name.
The king and country. Oh.
Now, Peter here has more than a professional interest in this subject.
So your great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather was Charles II?
Yeah. That's right, yeah.
How does that make you feel?
And it's fun. It's fun.
How many people do you tell, go on, when you've had a few at a dinner party?
Not many, actually.
Oh, I bet you do.
Peter's ancestor is this man, Charles Beauclerc, one of the illegitimate sons born to Charles II's famous mistress, Nell Gwyn.
So how many descendants do you think there might be of Nell Gwyn and Charles II?
Well, Nell Gwyn, I'm reasonably certain that there are some 2,000 living descendants. And
Living?
Living descendants.
That is
That's
stunning
a lot,
statistic.
a lot. But that's only one family. And if you start multiplying that up, Charles II had 16 children. You know, you must be talking in terms of tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands.
So some of them might be household names.
Oh, some of them are indeed household names. And the half of the House of Windsor, for instance, descends from a royal bastard.
And that's not all. The Princess of Wales was descended from several illegitimate royals. And likewise, Camilla Parker Bowles.
Let sunshine win the day.
Some famous commoners, too.
Samantha Cameron, David's wife, also descends from Nell Gwyn.
Does she?
And David Cameron descends from William IV.
So David and his wife
Are both descendants of royal bastards.
Do you think they know that?
I think they do.
But there are thousands of descendants who don't know. So how are our genealogists getting on with the search to find them? Anthony Adolph is on the trail of William Longsword, one of the many illegitimate children fathered by the 12th century king Henry II. Longsword was given the title of Earl, and that's a vital snippet of information for Anthony on his search.
This is Burke's Extinct Peerages, which records all the titles in this country that have gone extinct, and it includes William Longsword himself. He's there, described as William Longspee. And it's fantastic because it tells all about who his children were. Now, some of the daughters married into other families in this same book, and it's taken me right the way through, eventually, to this entry here for the Badlesmere family, which provides quite a few lines coming down to the end of the Middle Ages, so into the Tudor period, in fact. So it's bringing us closer to the present.
From the Badlesmeres to the Beaumonts, from earls to knights, Anthony is deliberately following a line that's gradually becoming less aristocratic.
It comes down to this point here, Mr. Beaumont of Wednesbury in Staffordshire. So we're going to be following those down now because they're a non-titled family, which is what I want. I want to find ordinary people who've got this royal bastard ancestry.
Anthony constructs a descendant line all the way down to the 17th century, to a family called Cumberford. But the trail's in danger of going cold unless he can find records of the Cumberfords here, at the College of Arms in London. I'm joining him in the hope that we can pick up a lead.
Now, we've got the marriage of Dorothy Beaumont into the Cumberford family.
Right.
And I'm hoping that the Herald's records here are going to carry the Cumberford line down much closer to the present and connect us up to some of the people out there who are unknowing descendants of William Longsword.
So it's going to unlock all the secrets.
I do hope so.
Let's go
have a
in.
look.
For centuries, the college has been responsible for granting coats of arms for royalty and to anyone else with rank or money. And the heralds here have the job of designing them. Anthony has brought me to meet one.
Jennie, I'd like you to meet Thomas Woodcock.
Thomas Woodcock has pulled out an ancient volume from his archives called a heraldic visitation. In effect, it was a kind of royal census.
This is a visitation only 3 years after the restoration of Charles II. It was taken at Lichfield on the 30th of March 1663. And here you have Robert Cumberford with his wife Catherine. His father was Humphrey and his mother Mary. And he's shown with two daughters, Mary, aged 8 years, and Anne, aged 7 years.
So where does this take us on our trail?
Well, quite a long way, actually, and it's fantastic. The Commonwealth gap is what we call the period of the Civil War and the period before Charles II came back. And for genealogists, it's a real problem because loads of parish registers weren't kept, loads of wills weren't written. There was a huge disruption of people because of the war. But this beautifully takes us from before the Civil War and the Commonwealth gap to these two girls ripe for marriage, and hopefully they both did and produced plenty of descendants for us.
We've already learned that names beginning with Fitz could suggest a royal bloodline. But there are also coded signs of illegitimacy in heraldry. All these royal coats of arms have distinctive diagonal lines through them. they're called batons and bends. And for those in the know, they're an instant giveaway.
That is one of the basic marks of illegitimacy. It runs from the top right hand to the bottom left hand corner of the shield as you look at it. In these cases, it's not touching the edges of the shield, and therefore it's known as a baton rather than a bend. And so that denotes that those three people are all illegitimate.
I wonder who thought all this up.
Well, that's what you have heralds for.
Is this what you spend your time doing? Shall it be
Yes.
a bend or shall it be a baton?
Yes, perhaps.
So the illegitimate children of the monarchy were given their very own coats of arms.
What I've established here is graphic evidence that royal bastards of centuries gone by were acknowledged, accepted, even celebrated by the kings who were their fathers. It's all here on public record. They had all the trappings of monarchy.
Back on the William Longsword line, Anthony has picked up the trail provided by those two crucial Cumberford daughters, Mary and Anne. He's traced a line forward another 200 years to a family called Havers. Scanning microfilm records, he's found the will of William Havers, who died in 1877. This leads to a granddaughter, Angela Havers. Then finally on to Angela's great-granddaughter, living today in this suburban street in Surrey. This is the house of my first unsuspecting lost royal.
Okay, Anthony, so here we go. This is so exciting,
I know,
I
it
must
is,
say.
isn't it? Yes.
So remind me, this is Natalie... how do you say her name?
Lehane.
Lehane.
Natalie Lehane.
Natalie
yes.
Lehane.
Yeah.
She's a policewoman?
Yes, that's right, yes.
Okay.
She's in her early 30s, and she's got two small children who are called Matthew and Ben.
So how will policewoman Natalie Lehane react to news of royalty in her family?
Oh, well, here we go. It's number 57. Hope she's in. Let's catch a curtsy. Hello, Natalie?
Hello. Yes.
Natalie Lehane?
Yes.
OK. I am Jennie Bond.
Hello.
And I've come here with a bit of a surprise for you, actually.
Right.
I'm going to tell you now that, in fact, you are descended from royalty. You are! You are!
Am I? Really?
Absolutely, but it may not be the kind of royalty you were expecting. You are related to William Longsword.
Right.
He is a gentleman who was born back in the 12th century. Have you ever heard of him?
No.
Well, he was the son of someone you will have heard of, at least, which is Henry II.
Oh, right.
Do you realise what that means? You are related to a king. Goodness knows how many times down.
Brilliant.
But the thing is, well, William was royal, but he was the illegitimate son of Henry II. He was, in fact, a royal bastard.
Oh.
What do you feel about that?
One of those things, isn't it? Still nice to have that connection.
Now here we have it all written down for you. Grab hold of that.
Thank you.
Quite goes on quite a long way. There we are.
Impressive.
I think we've rendered you speechless.
Yes, no, it's amazing, really. Yeah, I didn't know any of that at all.
There's a picture here of your ancestor, William Longsword. There he is, buried
I'll roll
in
this up for now.
Salisbury Cathedral. And you can just see his long sword sticking out from underneath. So that's how long it was. Can't really see a family resemblance, actually.
No.
But then he's wearing a very large helmet. But...
So, Natalie, what do you think all your mates down at the police station are going to say when you walk in and say, oh, I've got royal blood?
I think they'll laugh at me and think that I'm taking the mickey. I don't think they'll quite believe it somehow.
But you've got proof.
I have got proof and I will show it to them.
Do you think you're going to feel different when you watch royal events on television now, when you see them all standing on that balcony at Buckingham Palace? You think, oh, hang on a minute.
It could have been me.
Should have been me.
It should have been me, yes.
Natalie's ancestor, William Longsword, was just one of his father's 12 illegitimate children. So why did kings like Henry II have so many offspring born on the wrong side of the royal blanket? To try to answer this question, I come to the Royal Shakespeare Company workshops in Stratford to meet a special kind of expert.
Well, Eloise, I was hoping you're going to be able to tell me something about sexual attitudes over the years, and actually why kings had so many illegitimate children. They were a randy old lot, weren't they?
They were, Jenny, yes. I mean, even their costume suggested their interest in sex.
Like this one, I mean, this one here. So I'm underneath. I mean, do you get into the trousers, or
yes,
is it
there's
just
a little flap, so you can, have a wee.
Oh, I see. But essentially, I mean, nothing actually goes in there.
Not really, no. I mean, you can feel there it's quite padded.
It certainly is.
Your penis doesn't necessarily actually go into the codpiece, it's behind it. That's a sort of symbolic extension of your sexuality.
I see. So the bigger the codpiece, do you reckon the smaller what's inside?
Well, probably a bit like flashy sports cars, wasn't it? So who knows?
Once between the sheets, though, did any of these kings and princes take any precautions?
And what is it here I see before me?
Well, this lovely object is a 16th century condom. This is actually a replica.
But it's huge!
It is rather large, isn't it? It's slightly alarming and not very attractive.
Were they effective? What were they made of?
They would have been made of animal intestine chiefly, something like sheep's gut or pig's bladder. But some that have recently been unearthed in the north of England were actually made of fish skin.
Oh, dear.
Nice.
That would be so horrible and smelly.
Yes.
I can't believe it.
And the reason this one's got a pink ribbon on it
Yes.
is, of course, to hold it on, because as you've said, they are rather large.
So the royal men of centuries ago did have access to contraception. But what about their women?
One of the things that women used to do was to use a lemon as an early form of cap. So you
Really?
just hollow that out, slide it in, pop it over your cervix, and of course that's doubly protective because a lemon is acidic. So the acid in the lemon juice would have served as a form of spermicide as well,
Really?
as well as blocking the cervix.
So you reckon, how effective do you reckon that possibly was?
I couldn't possibly tell you,
percentage
Jenny.
terms,
I've never tried it.
Now, how's my other genealogist, Stephen Thomas, getting on? He's attempting to trace a descendant line down from Robert of Gloucester, born around the year 1100, the eldest of 20 illegitimate children fathered by the virile King Henry I. Fortunately, Stephen's discovered that Robert himself had a daughter called Mabel.
His daughter Mabel married into the de Champignon family. They lived in Modbury in Devon for some 500 years, growing wealthy, living from the land, and seemingly destined to stay there forever.
Following a line that starts with the de Champignons, Stephen's managed to get all the way down to the 19th century.
Then the Victorian era comes upon us, and we find that child mortality is reduced. More and more children survive. Down through the generations, there are 11, 12 children, all marrying.
And 24 generations down from our illegitimate royal is one of those children, John Lloyd Byrne. By searching the census records of 1831, Stephen's discovered that Byrne was a lead miner.
But things changed. There's a depression in the southwest, and he looks for work, and he ends up in the northwest, in Cumberland, in Millom.
John and his wife Elizabeth had a daughter, Emily Sophia, who appears in the 1891 census records. By this time, she's married a man called Solomon Burkitt. And Stephen has followed the Burkitt family down another 3 generations to the present day, to the town of Prescott in Merseyside.
Who is it we're going to see?
So we've come here to see an ambulance driver, a retired ambulance driver called Edwin Burkitt.
This is Edwin Burkitt on the day he married his wife, Imelda. And this is where he lives.
Do you think he's got any idea at all about his background?
He may have some idea about where he comes from in the locality, but I don't think he has any idea where he comes from on a national scale of things, and certainly not his bloodline.
Well, here we are. We come to the end of the trail for our royal bastard, Robert of Gloucester. Can't wait to see what they're going to make of it. Hello. Are you Edwin Burkitt?
I am indeed.
Hello,
yes.
I'm Jennie Bond.
I know who you are.
This is Steve Thomas.
Hello, Steve.
We have been on the trail of your family heritage. I have it all here. I've come to tell you that you have royal blood in you. You do?
You do.
You do?
Well, you better come in.
We have established that your husband is royalty.
Really? Well.
What do you think about that?
Surprise! Learn to curtsy.
I am not sure if she needs to, really, because the special bit about this is that you are descended from a royal bastard.
Oh.
I mean that in the nicest way. No, it is... He is descended directly from the illegitimate son of Henry I. Well, let's tell you a bit more. OK, Steve.
31 generations of Gloucester. Bastard or no, he was his father's favourite son.
There you go. Look, here he is. Your hubby.
Hi.
Look at that.
No,
There's
yeah,
you.
I'm on there.
And there's your daughter. And even Olivia, your granddaughter's on there.
Very good.
But there is no doubt about it. You have a direct blood link to
Henry
Robert
the First.
Gloucester
This-
and Henry I.
Bastard at the top of the table.
Yeah.
If you pardon the expression.
Well, I know. He's someone who really, if history had just gone that tiny weeny bit different, could have sat on the throne of England. Which means you could have been king, I suppose.
I've made a few changes.
OK, what would you have done? What would you
I
have done?
don't know. I'd be a bit like Prince Charles, I think. I'd have probably poked my nose in places where it wasn't always wanted.
Well, that's 2 new members of the royal family so far. Next stop on the trail is London's Theatreland. Many of England's illegitimate royals owed their existence to fun and frolics in these very streets.
Today, if Prince William or Harry fancy a night out on the town, then it involves quite a security operation. But 200-300 years ago, a prince, even a king, could go to the theatre, maybe to a tavern afterwards, without a troupe of detectives. And theatres were the perfect place to meet attractive young women.
And one young lady who caught the eye of King Charles II was the famous actress Nell Gwynn.
Now look at this. I'm at a pub called the Nell of Old Drury, named, of course, after Nell Gwynn, favourite mistress of Charles II. She was a star of the theatre, across the road, Theatre Royal. And we learn here that there was a secret passageway which led under the road between the pub and the theatre, so Charles could meet her whenever he wanted. It's very thrilling to see this evidence of a king and his mistress.
Nell bore Charles 2 children. And Peter Beauclerc Dewar here is descended from those same offspring. And that's given me an idea.
Do you know, the more I learn about this, the more intrigued I am about what life was like for a royal bastard, and indeed for their descendants today. So I have arranged a seriously posh dinner party.
It's going to take place here in London at the Royal Hospital in Chelsea, a fine old institution set up by none other than Charles II.
And the great thing is, all the guests can trace their roots right back to one royal bastard in particular, Charles Beauclerc, who was the son of King Charles II and Nell Gwynn.
We'll be dining right beneath the gaze of Charles II himself. Everything's nearly ready. Chef is preparing a meal fit for royalty. And there's just time for Peter to give me a briefing on the guests' illegitimate heritage.
So, Peter, this is the wonderful, famous Nell Gwynn.
There she is, in all her glory.
Your great-great-great-great-great-great-granny.
7 times great-granny, yes, indeed, yes.
No, tell me all about her. I mean, she's
Well, she, of
fabled.
course, was perhaps the best known of Charles II's many, many mistresses. And he had 8 mistresses by whom he had children. Nell was really the one who's best remembered because of her wit, her repartee, and she had this sort of impudence.
And Nell needed those qualities to compete with a procession of royal mistresses jostling for the king's attention.
This is Nell's arch-rival, Louise de Querouaille, who was made Duchess of Portsmouth.
So King Charles II was bonking both these women at the same time?
Oh, and another one, too.
Really?
Barbara Castlemaine, too.
Quite a lad, eh?
Oh, he had a big appetite.
And all tonight's guests owe their origins to that highly developed sex drive. They're all cousins, however distant. And what a posh lot they are. we have the Duke of St Albans, the Earl of Burford, the Marquess of Salisbury, the impressively named Lady Haggart Alexander of Ballochmyle, and a charming chap who's come all the way from France.
Now, this is Charles Chauvin de Précourt, over from Paris.
Bonsoir.
Bonsoir, madame. Vous parlez français, je
Well, un tout petit peu.
Working my way round the room, it becomes clear that all these descendants of Charles and Nell's son are very proud of their royal bastard blood.
Does it bother you, the wrong side of the blanket?
I think it's extremely distinguished, don't you?
As we sit down to dinner beneath portraits of kings and queens, it feels like a grand state occasion.
Charles, I wanted to ask you a question about Nell Gwyn, because I know I've read that she wasn't particularly ambitious for herself, but she was for her children, her sons, was she not? And I mean, I think it was her doing that her son eventually got the title you now hold.
That's correct. I think she was very frustrated by the king's apparent unwillingness to ennoble her two sons, Charles and James, and being a sort of unofficial court jester, she decided to use fairly drastic tactics. So she took to addressing her son in front of the king and court as, "You little bastard." And she'd say, "Come here, you little bastard."
Nell's bold tactics paid off, though, because her sons got the titles Duke of St Albans and Earl of Burford. And if one of those boys had made it all the way to the throne, Charles here could be the current Prince of Wales, and his dad, Murray, the King of England.
I think we should have a toast to royal bastards and their descendants. Is that all right?
Yeah.
To royal bastards and their descendants. To you all.
Meeting so many descendants of a royal bastard born more than 300 years ago has got me thinking. What about more recent residents of the palace? Have they behaved any differently?
Oh, Charlie, how lovely to see you again.
Charlie Ray has been a royal reporter in the tabloid press for more than 20 years. Investigating royal scandal is his speciality.
Of course, there's been a persistent rumour about Prince Harry, hasn't there, that he is not, in fact, the son of Prince Charles, that his father is James Hewitt, who we know, of course, was Diana's lover. But what do you reckon to that?
Well, I mean, like you, this is a question that you're always asked, and it's unfortunate, and I think it's very hurtful to particularly Harry and Charles. But facts, let's talk about facts. Prince Harry was born in 1984. James Hewitt did not start an affair with the Princess of Wales until 1985.
So that's quashed that particular rumour.
It's quite fortunate, actually, if our modern-day royals have not spawned illegitimate children, really, I think, because, you know, Charles was chased around as a young man.
Secret affairs, it seems, have always been part of being the Prince of Wales.
Once I had a secret love.
Charles was following a well-trodden path.
Previous princes of Wales had legions of mistresses. I mean, Edward VII had a sackful. I mean, he had 20. You know, how many children were produced out of that, God only knows.
The fact is, though, that since Queen Victoria came to the throne, the very existence of any unofficial royal children has been a taboo subject. Other royal families have taken a more relaxed attitude. In Monaco, for instance, Prince Albert has recently acknowledged 2 illegitimate children following DNA tests that proved he was the father. While Stephen Thomas works his way along the trail to our next surprise, I'm off to meet a man who could actually be a first-generation lost royal.
Now, he may be the only English illegitimate son of a king still alive. His name is Tim Ward-Seeley. He was born in 1935 and is now a retired actor. Rumours have circulated for years that his father was Edward VIII.
In the 1930s, the then Prince of Wales had gained a reputation for being a bit of a stud. It's alleged that he had a brief fling with a married woman, Vera Seeley, and that her son Tim was the result.
Well, I'm not sure what Tim thinks about this or what he'd be prepared to say, but here goes. Oh, hello. Hello, Mrs. Seeley.
How do you do?
This is Tim Seeley, aged 27. And this is Edward VIII, at about the same age. So is Tim the son of the former king?
Well, Tim, I have been so looking forward to meeting you, I must say. Tell me how close the then Prince of Wales was to your family.
Well, of course, it was way before my time. I was only a gleam in my father's eye, and I mean my legal father.
The facts are, though, that the prince had become very friendly with the Seeley family. And with his reputation, tongues began to wag when the beautiful Vera Seeley gave birth to a child with a striking resemblance to the future king.
So what do you reckon to it?
Funnily enough, I don't really think that it matters tremendously who your genetic father is, because my father brought me up, he was an example to me. I'd rather believe he was my father, as, you know, I had always believed until this all came up.
But you've got to admit that there is a physical resemblance between you and Edward VIII.
Well, slight. I think it mainly because we both had slightly turned-up noses. But I think I also look rather like my father. I mean, my proper father. He had a lean face and a lean build.
Tantalisingly, Tim bears a strong resemblance both to his legal father, James Seeley, and to Edward VIII. But he seems unable or unwilling to confirm who his real father is.
Why don't you put it to rest once and for all by taking a DNA test? It's so easy these days to prove, one way or the other.
Well, I suppose because I'd be horrified if I found out it was true.
You'd be horrified?
Yes.
Is that true?
Well, slightly, yes, because it wouldn't lead anywhere, for one thing, and it would just make me feel divorced from my real family. And nothing against the royal family, but basically they are Germans, Hanovers, who you know, have suddenly sprung on the scene in the last 200 years.
So I can't persuade you to take that DNA test?
No, no.
Back on the hunt, Stephen Thomas is trying to find an obscure royal line, one with a Fitz in the name, that of Richard Fitzroy of Chilham. He was one of at least 7 bastards fathered by King John, a notorious womanizer. In the hope of picking up a successful trail, Stephen's decided to investigate the origins of Richard's name, and he's discovered that there's a village of Chilham in Kent.
Richard had no title and therefore he had no status until he married Rose of Dover, who was an heiress.
Rose owned the village of Chilham and lived here at Chilham Castle. She and Richard had 2 children, including a daughter, Isabel, and it's her line that Stephen's going to follow. It leads to Gloucestershire and into the illustrious Berkeley family. This is Berkeley Castle. Stephen hopes that in the family archives held here, he can find information that will confirm he's on the right path.
Well, David, I'm here on something of a quest. I'm looking for issue of the illegitimate son of King John called Richard of Chilham in Kent. I believe his daughter Isabel married a member of the Berkeley family.
Right, well, we've got this pedigree, which was written in about 1600, and we can see her here. There's your Isabel,
oh, yes,
and she marries Morris here.
So that was a pretty good marriage, then, for the daughter of a knight, albeit a royal bastard.
Well, it certainly was, because she married into a baronial family, a family that had been barons for 100 years already.
The Berkeleys were one of the most powerful families in medieval England. But their dynasty could have ended just 100 years after Isabel's marriage, when it was implicated in the killing of a king. September 1327. the deposed King Edward II is imprisoned in a dungeon at Berkeley Castle. Here, he's brutally murdered. And it happened in this very room.
So, how was Edward II murdered?
There are two theories. One was that he was smothered with pillows or something similar. The other, more generally known way, was he had a red-hot poker shoved up his backside, so there were no outer marks of violence on his body.
A horrible way to die, but quite deliberately planned.
Well, I've got to ask you this. Where was your ancestor, Thomas Berkeley, when all this was going on?
I suspect he was up at his manor house at Woodnund, about 7 miles from here. He didn't want to be implicated.
Thomas Berkeley had ensured he was nowhere near the scene of the crime.
And what consequences, if any, have there been for the Berkeley family?
Well, nothing really. When Edward III, Edward II's son, came to the throne, Lord Berkeley was tried, but they could find no evidence of him being involved in the murder, and so he was let off, and the family went on from there and is still here today.
A shocking story, but one with an outcome that keeps the search alive. However, any descendants Stephen now finds will have regicide in their family tree. With the descendant line secured, Stephen searches through yet more ancient records. He traces a line from the Berkeleys that leads through numerous families, Arden, Adderley, and down to the present, to an Australian woman called Diane Etches Rule. We've discovered that Diane is currently travelling around Europe, and she may be at an address in North London.
Do you think she has any idea of her background?
Some of it, but not what we're about to tell her.
Time for me to spring the news on our third Lost Royal.
Now, we're not totally convinced she's here. We've been tracking her down all over Europe on her travels from Australia. And we're told she's here just for a couple of days at her daughter's flat, but I think I better try again. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Good afternoon. My name is Jennie Bond.
Hello,
Can I
Jennie,
entice you
how
out for
are
a minute? You probably don't, well, you won't know me because I know you come from Australia. Presuming that is you are Diane Rule.
I am indeed.
Well, I'm here to tell you that you are, in fact, descended from royal stock.
Oh, heavens.
Did you have any idea of that?
No, I didn't. I didn't.
Now, I have told you that we've tracked you back to royalty. Mm-hmm. But the surprise is that, although this will show you that you go back to King John in the 12th century, you come through a rather different line, through the royal bastard line.
Oh, yes.
Is that a surprise to you?
Oh, well, no.
Now, you're at the bottom here.
Yes.
And King John's at the top. And this is the royal bastard, his son, Richard Fitzroy, Baron of Chilham, in Kent.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel, straight up, how do you feel about that you come from an illegitimate line?
Oh, I think it's quite exciting. It's different from being a convict, isn't it?
Yeah, oh yes, yes, very much so, yeah. There's regicide in your family tree.
Oh, which king?
It was Edward II,
Oh, okay.
killed in Berkeley Castle. And in order that there were no visible signs of his demise, he was killed by having a red-hot rod inserted into his backside.
Oh, it's the poker.
It's the poker.
Oh, no. Oh, you have some nasty ancestors. Oh,
strong.
What's your view on royalty, then? I mean, being an Australian, one imagines that, you know, you couldn't care two hoops about them.
No, well, I'm a monarchist. I think they've done a wonderful job.
So does it change your perception of yourself at all?
No, it doesn't. Oh, no, no. I'm too much of an Australian for that.
So far, we've found 3 very different lost royal families. But the 4th and final manhunt is giving us a real runaround. Anthony Adolph is trying to pick up the genealogical scent of Elizabeth of Galloway, yet another of the royal bastards fathered by that potent monarch, Henry I.
This beautiful old book tells me something really important about Henry I's daughter, Elizabeth, who married Fergus of Galloway. It turns out they had a daughter, which is great news for me, called Africa, who married Olaf, who was king of the Isle of Man. Now, they had a descendant called Laud, who was the ancestor of the clan MacLeod. So that gives me a very fertile ground for trying to find living descendants.
The first 100 years of Elizabeth's descendant line have been relatively straightforward. It's about to become much tougher. Anthony's decided to travel north to the snowy highlands of Scotland. This magnificent landscape is the setting for the next stage of our royal hunt.
Now remember, of course, we're not trying to trace people who know they're descended from royal bastards already, so I'm not going to go down the male line of the MacLeod family, because they probably will know. But we've found that younger branches of the family settled all over northern Scotland. And we're here in Sutherland to try to find one of the particular younger branches I'm interested in, the MacLeods of Assynt.
Anthony has come here, to the shores of Loch Assynt. Here stand the stark ruins of Ardrech Castle.
This is where a younger branch of the MacLeods of Lewis, who were descended from Elizabeth of Galloway, came to settle during the Middle Ages.
But brutal feuds swept through Assynt in the 16th century. Eventually, the MacLeods were driven out by a rival clan.
So, the castle is ruined here, obviously. There aren't any MacLeods here anymore. But I'm hoping, against hope, that there are going to be some clues as to where the descendants went after that.
Not far from Loch Assynt is the churchyard of Inchnadamph. These more recent MacLeod graves are evidence that the descendant line we're after may well have survived. And inside the church, the trail gets still warmer.
Coming in here, I found that they've got this wonderful family tree of the MacLeods of Assynt, which is exactly what I wanted. So it tells us all the history of the chiefs coming right the way down.
Fortunately, the descendant line survived the bloodletting.
And this one here has caught my eye, and I'm very encouraged by this hue, born about 1612. So maybe that's the line I can follow now to get us into the 18th and 19th centuries and down to the present.
Those instincts are right. Hugh MacLeod had a son, Aeneas, who became a Scottish MP. From Aeneas, Anthony's able to go forward another 7 generations to Roderick MacLeod, born in 1929. Roderick had a daughter, Pascal, who we've discovered is living in San Francisco. California, here I come.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Checking here for the US?
Yeah, that's right.
Thanks very much. It's amazing, you know, where this trail is taking us. I'm off to San Francisco now. I'm going to meet a lady called Pascal. Now, she is descended from Henry I via one of his bastard daughters, Elizabeth of Galloway. Pascal knows we're coming, but she's no idea why, so it should be interesting.
6,000 miles later, I've arrived on the shores of the Pacific Ocean to find my last lost royal. But I've another reason for coming all this way. I've discovered that California, amazingly, is home to a group of people who all claim to be descended from British royal bastards. This is too good an opportunity to miss.
I wish they all could be California.
Time to leave the city to meet this mysterious organisation. This is their president, Tony Hoskins, known to his members as the Bastard-in-Chief. And this chap is their secretary, Jim Terzian.
His grandmother joined...
You are you not, the descendants of the illegitimate sons and daughters of the kings of Britain?
That's true.
This is so wonderful. I found you on the internet, and I didn't actually believe it was true. Why do you exist?
The real reason behind this organization is to foster the best genealogical standards of proof. So it has a serious motive despite a humorous name.
I thought you might be a bit of a piss take.
Well, that's true, too.
So how do you join?
Well,
can I join?
Sure. Well, you could certainly take a look at it. Yes. The usual procedure is to look at your family tree and see if you have any lines to a potential gentry or noble family. And if you do, you continue searching along those lines, frequently you'll find a bastard line. And so then you would come to us and we'd get you started.
So I have to prove I'm a bastard?
Indeed.
Or at least descended from a bastard.
Your friend's
Yes.
recommendations notwithstanding.
You're right.
You have to be able to prove descent from an illegitimate child, grandchild, or great-grandchild of a British monarch.
And this is Jim's proof of his lineage.
This is extraordinary, Jim. How long did it take you to do this?
This was a few years' work. This is the ancestry of my 9th great-grandmother.
That 9 times removed great-grandmother descends from several different royal children.
I was wondering whether any of the bastard sons and daughters that I've been looking into are on here.
They are. In fact, all of them are.
Are they?
Yes.
That would be incredible.
Here we have William Longsword, illegitimate son of Henry II.
Oh, yes, OK. So you're connected to him?
Descend through a couple of his children. Robert of Gloucester, illegitimate son of Henry I.
Yeah.
Through a couple of his children. Beyond him, we have his illegitimate half-sister, Elizabeth.
Elizabeth of Galloway?
Indeed. And one other, I believe you've been looking at, Richard.
Of Chilham?
Indeed.
So, actually, this is only part of your family tree, because we haven't even got you on this.
This is about 1/1000th.
Really? It is incredible. How'd you put all this into numbers, then?
The odds that any of us with Anglo-Saxon forebears is not descended from one of these royal bastards is almost infinitesimal. The challenge is finding it.
Does make you wonder, what is royal blood, really? Because we all seem to have it.
We do indeed.
I've met Jim on the day he's arranged a gathering of the California chapter of his society.
It's great to see so many royal bastards gathered in one place.
What did you know about this?
Can you believe it? All these Americans can trace themselves back to a king of England.
Delightful to know that I have a longsword in the family.
Oh, dear.
Well, the illegitimate side, that's the best I could get.
Loads and loads of them.
What's more, they have some radical views on the future of the monarchy.
If Prince William and his girlfriend had a child, they weren't married, should that child take the throne? What do you reckon?
Absolutely. Why not?
Yeah?
Why not? Let's not hold it against the child.
It would just be one more step in the modernization of the monarchy, as far as I'm concerned.
Now let's find out if my last lost royal has equally liberal views.
This is it, I think. What a trail it's been. Started out with Elizabeth of Galloway, and that took Anthony all the way to the wilds of Scotland and to Assynt. And now it's brought me here to San Francisco and to this street where I'm about to find one Pascal MacLeod.
And here's where Pascal lives.
Here we go. I'm feeling quite nervous, actually. Hello. Hello. How do you do? Hi.
Right, and you?
My name is Jennie Bond.
Hello, Jennie. I'm Pascal.
I have come 6,000 miles to tell you something which might come as a bit of a surprise, actually. We have been looking into your family history and your ancestry. Did you know that you are directly descended from an English king?
No, I did not.
It's not exactly the royal blood you might have expected, because you are directly descended from the bastard daughter of Henry I.
My.
Let me show you. We have got your family tree here. Look at this. See, you are one of our lost royals.
Oh, my goodness.
We've been tracking them down, and this is your family. Here you are.
Oh, my goodness.
Pascal and your daughter, Juliana. Oh. And this is going to go back way over 20 generations back to Henry I. Now, he kind of outsourced. He couldn't get enough children by his wife. So he had 20 known illegitimate children. And one of them is Elizabeth of Galloway. Now, that's your great-great-great-great-grandmother.
My goodness.
And we could be talking Queen Pascal here.
Oh, goodness.
Fancy that idea? Fancy the job?
No, I don't.
Looking through the photos of the trail, Pascal is intrigued by the MacLeod stories of Assynt. But she seems pensive about the news I've sprung on her. And here's why.
That the biggest surprise to me is more my uncomfortableness.
Really?
That's the biggest surprise of all of it. Not the surprise about being part of the royalty. It teaches me something about me, which is I care more than I thought I did about what others think.
So what do Pascal's husband Steve and daughter Juliana make of it all?
What do you think about having a royal wife?
I'm flabbergasted, actually.
So is she. I'm also flabbergasted about the bastard part of it.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, after all, I'm Jewish, ostensibly Semitic, and I have blue eyes. Now, how did that happen?
This has been an extraordinary journey. I've discovered so much about our royal past and glimpsed a future that might have been. Most important of all, I found that royal blood is everywhere. Millions of people are descended from the illegitimate offspring of medieval monarchs. If just one of those children had been crowned king or queen, then any one of us could be standing on that balcony today.